We're going to continue in Proverbs today. We're going to be in the 4th chapter of Proverbs, and it's again about wisdom. The first chapters of Proverbs are to set the people up so that they can understand why they're listening to all these little bitty things that are true, but they're not always absolute. They're truths, as opposed to this is exactly the way it's going to happen. These are the truths, and it's important. And so he talks about wisdom, and now he's going to talk about something that I think we've lost in our society. He goes, "Hear, O sons, of father's instruction. Be attentive that you may gain insight." We have lost that in our society. When it is the time that a son or a daughter needs our advice the most is when we kick them out of the nest and they're gone. That's when they need that advice the most. He goes, "For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching." Now he explains something here. He goes, "When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the side of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words, keep my commandments and live." Sometimes when we read Proverbs, we get the idea that we're supposed to look to those Proverbs and listen to that. He is here explaining that just as listening to the Proverbs that God gave Solomon, listening to the advice of our parents is important. Listening to those lessons that they teach us. We've gotten away from that. Schools teach, TV teaches. We tend to be a little lax in teaching, and some of it is we haven't learned from Proverbs. One of the problems we have in giving the lesson to our children that they need is we want to tell them how to tie their shoes and how to brush their teeth and what to take in school and where to go and who to... We want to give them specifics. Read the book of Proverbs. They're very general. If we want our children to learn from the precepts that we give them, we need to give them precepts, not orders. We need to give them lessons and guidelines rather than, you know, son, that girl ain't no good for you. You know it's true. They probably do too. But the minute you say that, it's over. So we need to learn to give precepts and lessons that they can apply to the specifics in their life. Because it's really hard to take the messages that God gives you if you haven't learned anything from it's really hard to start over and not have that basis of the good things that your parents teach you. There was a poster I saw a long time ago that said, everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. If you'll notice as we go through Proverbs, most of the things are very, very simple, very easy. Getting through this life is not hard if we keep it simple. When we complicate it, that's when it gets difficult. Instead of, okay, what's the principles? What's the principle I need to apply? Does being with this person keep me close to God? Does being with this person keep me in touch with my family? If they don't, it's probably a good idea not to be with them. But if those lessons are taught early, it's easy for people to listen to God's word and apply it when they've learned those basic things. He taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words, keep my commandments, and live. There's a lot of commandments that parents give children. Too many times, they're not commandments that help them live. We're trying to make the way really, really easy for them. We need to be like God and like Solomon and like David and give them the commandments that will help them live, not clutter up their minds with all of the things that would make life easier. You know what? They're going to figure that out on their own. Because unfortunately, most people are like me. The only things I ever really learned, I learned the hard way. I had to learn, and you do. He says, get wisdom, get insight, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, wisdom, and she will keep you. We teach our kids one question, which is really important, which you should always ask. Is it the right thing to do? That's an extremely important question. They need to stay to the right. But there's another question they need to learn to ask too. Is it the wise thing to do? Not everything is right and wrong. Is it the wise thing? If we as adults and they as young people learn to look for what's the wise thing to do here? Because most questions in life are not right and wrong. There's good, better, best, and boy, that's dumb. But if you're only looking at right and wrong, you go, oh, it's okay. This is in the side of right. This is not wrong. But is it the wise thing to do? Get insight. Love her and she will guard you. Love wisdom and wisdom will guard you. Think about being wise. Make that a priority. Is this the wise thing to do? Can I afford this car? Yes. Should I get this car? Maybe not. You see, there's a difference between Yeah, I can afford it. I may only eat top ramen for the next month, but I can afford it. But is it the wise choice? Give you an idea about a wise choice. Should somebody drop $10 or $12 million in my lap, I could walk down to a dealership and I could buy a Lamborghini with 12 cylinders. I will tell you that I will not do that. I will walk into the dealership and I will touch it, holding up some $100 bills so he won't throw me out. I'll touch that Lamborghini. But I'm wise enough to know that I like my driver's license and I like my life. And if I had that Lamborghini that will do 240 miles an hour, I would not have my license or my life within 6 months. See, that's called being wise. You know, not everything is right and wrong. Sometimes you got to use a little bit of wisdom. Verse 7 is probably the most beautiful, simple statement in the entire Bible. It is so clear and beautiful that we don't listen to it. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. I mean, you know, isn't that a beautiful thing to say? The beginning of wisdom is get it. It's that simple. Get wisdom. Work at it. And whatever you get insight. Prize her highly and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. Wisdom and insight will honor you if you embrace them. If you make that a cornerstone of your life. Wisdom and insight. And that's one of the things that in training children, one of the hardest things we have to do is those years before they leave the house, teaching them how to survive out there, how to use the wisdom to most people get wisdom in one way. You know how kids learn that stoves are hot? They put their hands on it. I wish we as a human beings were different, but you can tell somebody that stove is hot. What are they going to do? They're going to put their hand over the burner just to see just how hot it is. You know, nah, it's not that hot. One of the best things we can do for our children and grandchildren is let them make their mistakes. Let them choose unwisely when we're there to mitigate the damages so that they've already learned that the stove is hot. They've already learned those lessons. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. Wise people are honored. You may not be the most educated person in the room. You may not be the most intelligent. But the people who are truly honored are the ones who are the wise ones. The ones that don't just have knowledge, but they have wisdom that they can impart. Hear, my son, and accept my words, that the years of your life may be many. You want your children to live a long time? Teach them to be wise. Teach them to love the idea of wisdom and insight. We go down to the other ones. Verse 14. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it, and do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on. See, now he shifted from wisdom to right and wrong. Wisdom is a broad trail. It goes from, well, this is okay, to this is wonderful. It's a broad path. Wisdom, you can take a lot of different trails through wisdom. But right and wrong is a line. It's a line. You don't cross it. You don't get on it. And that we need to teach our children the difference between things that are wise and things that are wrong. There's some things that I will tell people, you know, in your religious life, this is not the wise thing to do. It's not wrong, but for you, because I know you, that's not the wise choice. Now, I think if we gave Doug here my Lamborghini, he would drive that thing at 55 miles an hour. He'd never get a ticket in it. He'd never have an accident. You see, it could be wise for him to have one, because then he'd have all the work done at his house that he needed, because I just want to go over there and pet the car. You know, it could be a wise thing. You see the difference between right and wrong and wise? Do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it. Do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on. For they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble, or they eat the bread of wickedness. I know we've all said, these people are just, I just don't understand them. It's just like they just have to do wrong things. They're just so, guess what? It's not new. Solomon said it way back then. We like to think that we live in the worst age of morals ever. Not true. Every age is bad. Some are worse. We do not have any place in the United States where for religion you go and sleep with a prostitute. I think that we need to be thankful for that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love a religion like that. I'm not saying they're not heading that way. We've not got there yet. Down in verse 22 as we close this up. For they are life to those who find them and healing to their flesh. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Keep your heart, because from that flow the springs of life. If we work on our heart, it keeps us from doing stupid things that we think of. We say, that's in the heat of the moment. This just happened. And yeah, I did that, but they were doing this and I just wasn't thinking. And it just, no, that's a heart problem. If your heart had been in the right place, you wouldn't have reacted that way. Now, I can say that because I have a problem with that too. We all do, but keeping our heart is what God wants us to do, to worry about our heart. And in our society today, that is something that I think we need to practice more and stress to people. You can be right, you can do right, and you can be compassionate and loving at the same time. I'm sure you've all seen cop shows where a guy's a little bit feisty and they cuff him up and they place him on the car. And his head may bang a little, but they placed him there pretty good. Sure, you've also seen times where they grab that guy and they pick him up and they pound him into that car, and both accomplished the same thing, didn't they? They got the guy in custody. One is a compassionate way to do it, and the other is not. Christians need to do the right thing, which is sometimes unpleasant and people don't like. But they need to do it compassionately. If you need to answer the invitation, you can come forward as we stand and as we sing.